Hi there! Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we'll be talking about everything I've read in January of 2024. Oh my goodness. So it's been like a year since I started this series. I started it last year in January of 2023. So it's pretty exciting that I've been consistent for something for a whole year. Yay! But yeah, I wanted to show you everything I've read this month. I've read 3 books. Two of them are books that I own, and one of them is actually a book I rented through our local library. And if you don't rent books from your library, you really should. That is, in my opinion, a great way to try out books that you don't necessarily know if you're going to like or not. Because guess what? If you don't like it, you didn't buy it. It's free. Woohoo! And you can just go back and return it. That's great. And we should really support our local libraries because they're places of knowledge and they're incredibly underfunded by our government. So, yeah, libraries. Anyway, let me just show you everything I've read so far this year. So what was the first book I finished? Let's just do this one. This is A Sense of Self, Memory, the Brain, and Who We Are by Veronica O'Keene. This is actually a book, it's nonfiction, clearly, but this is a book I actually read for my own research for a book that I'm writing. The idea of memory and how we use memory to shape identities is very important in the book I'm writing. So I wanted to learn more about the brain and how one goes about forming memory, especially what I learned is that a lot of our memory is tied in with our emotions as well through this book. This book's really good because it focuses like on the sciences of the brain because this person is a psychiatrist. The author is, I believe, Irish. But they've been a psychiatrist for a very, very long time. So there's this like medical side that you get when reading this book, but she also draws comparisons to literature and like how some writings might reflect actual instances of psychosis that people are going through. She references Yellow Wallpaper a lot, and now that's on my reading list as like a dark fantasy, scary story to tell about a woman who is like hospitalized, and it kind of like she describes her own like it's like a gothic type thing, but descent into madness basically. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the science of the brain and like how we form memories and how and what role our emotions play in forming memories, I really recommend this book. I think I already put it on my Goodreads, but I think this one's like a good 4.5. So I learned a lot through it, and that's the point of nonfiction. So there you go. So the second book I read this month is actually one that's been on my TBR list for a very long time. But this is My Sister the Serial Killer. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me tell you about this. I read this book in like 2 days. I was binging it. I really, really enjoyed it. I think part of the reason I binged this is because the chapters are short. I think that's something I've been noticing even with my own book. AO, Chris Spate was organized this way. Okay, so Chris Payne was organized this way in the first iteration. It had very, very short chapters because I blogged most of my book. And then I ended up taking that blog and turning it into a book. But yeah, so this book also has very, very short chapters. And I think that's like a very modern way because like I think it holds people's attention better because let's face it, our like attention span is fried thanks to TikTok and the phone and the reels and all the videos, right? We take things in short bits and contents. It's changing our brain. So anyway, if you're somebody who's been affected by internet brain rot, and you want a good book to read, read this one. This was good. This was really entertaining. This is written by an author who is from Nigeria, and it is basically more. It's like scary because the sister is a serial killer. I don't mean to spoil that for you, but it's literally in the title. And the main character is somebody who helps her sister clean up after her messes. So this is more of like a family drama sort of thing because it's like trying to figure out what your boundaries need to be when dealing with certain family members. And we watch the main character wrestle with that internally throughout the whole book. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed this. I thought it was really entertaining. The writing is pretty simplistic, but I got the characters right away and I had fun reading this. So I think this one was also pretty highly up there for me. I don't know if I put it as a 5 on Goodreads, but I probably put it at like a 4.5 too. But I read this really quickly. If you want a quick read that's a little spooky, I would pick this one up. It's not scary. Like I said, it's more about family drama. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'll just leave it at that. So this book I literally just finished last night. And I have confused feelings about it, but that's okay because we can talk about it. So I got this from the library. I got this book, Something Wicked This Way Comes. This is Ray Bradbury. Now, I read Ray Bradbury in like either middle school or high school. I read Fahrenheit 451, and I remember liking it at that time. I remember thinking it was, you know, so insightful and like dystopian and really cool. So I thought, oh, I'll pick up another book by him. And this is one of his most well known ones. This book really influenced Stephen King. And if you read it, I see it. Um, so this was very highly hyped. I posted about this on Threads and on Instagram. And I even had some people being like, oh, this is my favorite book, blah, blah, blah. I read this when I was young. Um, I think it's a little dated and a good way and a bad way. So this book was written in like the 50s or 60s. Okay. And this is a circus themed horror. So basically, with this book, it is about the two main characters are two little boys, they're besties. And they are next door neighbors, and they see that a circus is coming to town, but it's not summertime. It's literally like around Halloween. So that's very peculiar for a circus to be coming to town. It takes place in a small town in Illinois, and I currently live in Illinois, so that's another reason to pick it up. So anyway, yeah, so the circus is coming to town in October. Very strange. Normally doesn't happen. The circus itself is full of spooky characters, and there are rides that have like mystical things going on with them that are affecting other people in the town. Okay. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, and I don't want to give away big plot points, so I'm going to try to be vague with this. But yeah, that's basically kind of what's going on. And one of the little boys is clearly tempted and interested in this carnival, and the other one not so much. You can tell it is written back then because it uses some tropes and language that was very common at the time, i.e., the whole like, oh, one boy is blonde and pale, and he represents goodness and righteousness, and the other one has a little bit darker features, so he's the one that's more tempted by evil. I get it. Outdated, but okay, I get it. And then the language in this is very pretty. The writing is beautiful, but that is also its downfall a little bit. So if you're someone who really likes flowery language, you'll love this book. My problem is I am somebody who enjoys that. Like I love beautiful prose. The descriptions and everything are wonderful. There's higher themes in this that make you like that talk about the fear of aging or the fear of death and fear of getting older, and then also like the classic good versus evil thing, and like how far can people be tempted, how good are people, are they a mix of things, all that's in there. But it's almost like overkill at times because there's no break. So every sentence is poetic, every sentence has a metaphor to it, every sentence is heavy with like words. You have to pay attention to the words constantly, and there's no like refresher sentence that's just simple. Like I said, I think this is very stylistic for this author in general to do that. I can tell this is something and again, it's beautiful, I'm not knocking it, but it's just hard when that's constantly every single sentence, every single paragraph, every single chapter is heavy handed when it comes to the prose. So that's also something about this. Again, it's of its time period. Another thing that is kind of like something to be conscious of when you're reading this is that, um, okay, so there's a character who becomes a dwarf. We are not sure exactly how. I won't say who, but obviously this is a carnival and a circus, and there's like a freak show thing to it. And now, now we live in the 21st century where we know that these historically these sort of circus free shows were really problematic because it would just feature people with like disabilities or disfigurements or people from different backgrounds, like ethnic backgrounds, and put them in a freak show for people to like ogle over in some capacity. um I can't remember who it was. Editing me will put this in here, but there's even one story of like this woman who was pretty much abducted from Africa and put in one of these like not like a menstrual show because that's just like blackface, but like in a circus show because of like her body proportions, and basically she had a very large bottom, and they ogled over it and turned her into a thing, put her in a cage so everybody could stare at her bottom. I am grossly oversimplifying the story. If you're interested in that, check it out. But there's a lot of like questionable practices, especially way back when we're talking about like using people as exhibits for freak shows or whatever. Like, I'm not even exaggerating when people would like literally kidnap a family of indigenous folks or people from up north in Alaska or different groups of people and just kind of put them on a parade. In this instance, with the dwarf character, and I'm using that word because that's the word that's used in the book. The language around him is sort of ableist, and again, it's of the time period, but it just kind of talks about him not being really with it, and just like a madman and all this weird stuff. And I know it's supposed to make it scary. I know it's supposed to be like shocking. But if someone were to write this in this day and age, I just don't think it'd go over very well. So that's something to be mindful of when you're reading too. It's a hard discussion, right? Because it's a hard discussion when you digest any piece of media, examining it through this lens of this was what was normalized at the time, but then also like understanding that like yeah, we live in the 21st century, so how do we handle that kind of stuff? I don't always have the answer for that, but if you're somebody who is really doesn't want to have that in the sphere of reality or whatever, you might not enjoy this book because that description is repeated for that one specific character is repeated very frequently. Um, Surprisingly, all the other characters were relatively tame when it comes to the freak show. Like, there's a guy with tattoos. There's someone called Mr. Skeleton who's just like really skinny. There is somebody else who, like, a witch who has her eyes sewn shut. They do use, and I don't know if this is actually a slur or not. I've heard it is, but I don't know anyone from this community, so I'm sorry. But like the people of Romani descent that tend to have a more nomadic lifestyle. That word is used in this book as well to describe some of the people that work for the circus or the women that work for the circus. Um, so that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then I'm trying to think of all the characters in my head to see if there's anybody else really, but I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's about it. So there's nothing super jarring, but I figured I'd mention that to you folks as well. Just because that kind of like stuck out to me personally, and I was like, I'm not crazy about that. Um, the ending, I don't want to spoil for you either. The ending was interesting. It's kind of got like the power of friendship type ending. Oh, there's this other thing I want to talk about with this book. So like, okay, power of friendship ending. I don't mind. I kind of like those. Wasn't like a little anticlimactic? Maybe it was okay for me. But the beginning though, there was again, and I can see how Stephen King was influenced just because sometimes he's a little weird with the kids and yeah. So in the very beginning, I don't know if they witnessed like a peep show exactly or like what, but the boys are walking home from playing and they stop at like a theater and there's like naked people on the stage fondling each other and stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on. I'm sure they don't know what's going on, so like that's why it was written that way. But like it was really unnecessary. And I don't know if they were trying to do like a loss of innocence in that moment or something so that they could be tempted by the horrors. But in my opinion, it was really unnecessary to have that sexualized content. And I get it. It's a man in the 50s and 60s. What do we expect? And I know that, with it, there was like an orgy scene or something. I've never read it. I've watched the movies. When I heard that there's like an orgy, because my brother read it, and when he told me that there was like a child orgy scene or whatever, I was like, girl, why? 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 Yeah. Anyway, so it's got a little bit of that in it too. It's nothing like super graphic, but it's just bizarre, and you're kind of like, this doesn't really add to the plot other than like you can make the argument that like they needed to lose their innocence as because I think they're like 13 as these young boys so that they can properly deal with bad guys. No, they don't. It's just weird. It's just weird. I get metaphors, and again, I get that this is a trope. I dislike this trope. I do because there's multiple ways to show like a loss of innocence without it being that, and I think people who rely on that just aren't creative. Sorry. This is coming from somebody who was like SA'd as a child. Like none of that was necessary. And I'm sorry to trauma dump on you or whatever, but like, and it's not an instance of me being like triggered or whatever for that. No, it's not. I just thought it was kind of weird and silly. So yeah, there's things I liked about this book, but there's things I didn't, and I'm tempted to reread Fahrenheit 451 because maybe there was things in there that I read as like, again, like a 13-year-old that I missed as somebody who's almost 30. Very likely. But I mean, it's just hard because Ray Bradbury is like an icon for a lot of people. Even in the back of this edition of the book, they have like little mini reviews. Basically, I thought it was criticism, but it's more like mini reviews from people like Margaret Atwood, Stephen King, and Neil Gaiman back in here. I think Neil Gaiman's in this. I'm not sure. But in the back of this book, talking about like how this was signature for like the whole style of the American Gothic. And what I learned, and what makes a lot of sense reading this again, is that Ray Bradbury was concerned about the moral decline of the US, especially as technology becomes integrated with our lives. And he personally felt like people weren't interested in the spiritual battle of good versus evil. And that's basically the whole gist of this. These people aren't necessarily like demons, but the whole idea is like temptation and people doing things because they're scared. And how do you like beat being scared? You are positive, I guess. Again, I'm not spoiling. I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but yeah. Um, I don't know. Again, this is definitely of its time. Um, I don't think you can toxic your positivity your way out of every situation. That seems to be the conclusion that happens here, and valid. I get the points that are being made, and I agree with some of them. There's also that kind of like mysticism that happens sometimes with people who want to write something exotic and where they kind of mystify like Eastern cultures, or not Eastern cultures. What am I saying? Uh, well, okay. There's like a traveling salesman at the very beginning of this book, and he tries to sell this product. It's like lightning rods, and I thought it was cute, right? But he also like works up this whole stick about it's got different symbols on it, and it's got like a scarab beetle on it, and it talks about like Egypt and how it just kind of mysticizing those sorts of cultures, which is common even still today to do. But there's also a little bit of that in the beginning. Books do that today, so yeah, yeah. Um, I'm trying to think. I basically talked about all the like pros and cons of this. I'm not saying this is a bad book. I did like enjoy reading it. Like obviously it had me hooked and I finished it, but there's just some things where I was like, I don't know. So this is like a mixed bag for me, basically. I'll probably give this a 3. I haven't reviewed it on Goodreads just yet. I'm going to do that. I have some work I need to do today, but then afterwards I'll probably review it on Goodreads and my post controversial opinions because I know a lot of people like this book, and I'm just being honest about what I thought. And you can say, oh, you just don't get it. No, I got it. It's pretty in your face. Like, I felt bad because one woman was like, oh yeah, well the title comes from a Shakespeare quote, blah blah blah. Yeah, I know, because the book in of itself quoted Shakespeare and self-referenced the title within the book, so everyone got it. If it was me, I would have left it out and let people figure it out on their own. You know what I mean? But again, it's a little on the nose. It's okay. That's basically what it is. It's a little on the nose. It's okay. I can see how this influenced other people's writing, and this is very much like American Gothic, right? Like, it's when I say that, like the Gothic genre is about, it's more of like moody, so it's not like blood and guts type of thing, or that kind of scary. But like Gothic, I enjoy reading Gothics. I really do. It's more about the environment and how one interacts with the environment, and how the environment is a reflection of one's like mental state, pretty much a lot of times. There are like Southern Gothics are super popular and super cool. I know somebody who writes Florida Gothic, which is cool. You know, there's a lot of Gothic romances. I'm trying to think. Mexican Gothic, exactly. That's what I was thinking of. Mexican Gothic. is a gothic tale that has some sort of twisted romantic relationship in it. So yeah, the gothic genre is very popular, and this is like a kind of grandfather to that, I think. And it just shows like classic Americana, and they really play it up. It's like it's meant to be kind of Leave It to Beaver esque in the beginning. Totally get that. Appreciate it. You know, I get the language used, like the whole boy golly type shit. Very like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Girl, I get it. I get it. But it was just like as much as it was trying to be self-aware, there were still things within it that were kind of dated. And reading it back, I was like, okay. But yeah, I rambled on this book a lot. But anyway, so that's my 3-star read. Okay, cool. I got 2 other books from the library. Oops, I kicked the thing. I got 2 other books from the library. I can show you one here. The other one is on my desk. It's called Meddling Kids. I think I've talked about that before in my library haul video. And I got Baby Teeth. And those books are both really big, and I gotta finish them by February 11th. So, yeah, that's what I'll be doing in my afternoons until then. And then hopefully I can include those in my February reads. Even if I don't have the physical copies with me, I'll put the pictures of the books here, and I'll talk about them at the end of February too. And then who else? Who else knows? I'm trying to finish Jazz, but now I got all this other stuff to do. So definitely those 3 will probably be for next month, and then I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed me talking about books, and I hope I influenced you to pick up some of your own, or at least to go in a library and check these out. Yay! Um, if you like this content, please go ahead and like the video, comment down below, and share it with a friend. I've been kind of experimenting with my content on this channel a little bit, and I've posted some other videos that are doing really well. But that's not normally my type of content. So I'm really trying to decide whether I should shift focus and make videos that are strictly kind of about more so of like authors behaving badly in the internet sphere, or if I should stick to more vloggy type stuff, or just talk about like what I'm doing, what I'm reading, you know, which again, no one probably cares about my life. So, you know, I get that, girl. I get that. I'm not even offended. Um, but yeah, so let me know if you like these chill videos, or if you think I should stick to, I guess, the more drama type ones for Writers Wednesdays, because um you know, I don't know if I can keep putting out 3 videos a week. So if I'm going to shift my content, I got to like make that decision now, and I really don't know what to do. So I would appreciate any sort of input you have. Yes, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about that. And until next time, thanks. Bye.